Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. We know a lot of people go back, listen to pretty much the whole episode, so we pretty much are. We're thankful for everything that people go through and listen to, and do our best to give content on a daily and just do our best to keep people tapped into what's going on at Trust Christian and involved. And a lot of people have been tapped in for years, and we always appreciate it. We have no problem with seeing it at the beginning of the episodes too, especially for the long time listeners. Just know, Trust Christian knows y'all listening. We've had people reach out from years ago, and people from years ago, and from years ago, and from years ago, and they say, "Oh, Trust Christian, we see you still here, 'cause you the last man standing," and that's what it is. It's Trust Christian. Own nothing, control everything. Want to thank you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. And this is one of those episodes where this is your number one asset in trusteeship. Your number one asset, the number one asset in your trust. 971. A lot of people know we don't call it your trust, but for this episode, long time listeners, y'all gonna have a good edification here. Number one asset in your trust. The number one asset in your trust is the time you put into the trust. The trust is not going to get out more than what you put in. If you put in a generation's worth of energy, you're going to get one generation's energy out. If you put in 2 generations worth of energy, you should get 2 generations out. If you put in 3 generations worth of energy, you should get almost 3 generations of energy out. Some people may not be able to think in those terms, and for that reason, they're not going to make it past the 2nd generation, because they didn't put a system in place that they were thinking past the first, thinking past the second, and thinking in terms of multi-generational. 3, 4, 5, 6. Some people may say, is this worthy of our time? Completely. And so, when we talk about the number one asset that goes into the trust, if the insurance policy is on the trustee, which is most of the times you, what is the trust insuring? It's insuring your livelihood so you can go out and put time into the trust. So a lot of people may say, "Oh, Trust Christian, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I didn't put time into this. I didn't put time into that." Well, now we know why the trust won't last past 1 generation. You actually have to put in 1 generation's worth of work. We'll tell anybody that if somebody wants to sit here and argue with that with Trust Christian, it's perfectly fine. We're cool with it. But we know, we sit around the greats, and we can tell you for sure they're definitely putting in the hours. These guys are 70 years old. You're wondering when they're going to quit. They're 60 years old. You wonder when they're going to quit. These guys are putting in heavy generation status. You say, "Oh, Trust Christian, if he's 60, how many hours you think he put into the trust if he's been in for 30 years? These guys we've sat around have been in for 30 years. Plus, okay, ladies and gentlemen, he been in trusteeship for 30 years. Their family's been in trusteeship for 30 years. They've been in trusteeship. True money, wealth. He put in at least 2 generations. People don't want to hear that though. "Oh, Trust Christian, how you gonna say it like that?" We were actually gonna look up the definition of what generational wealth is, because how you gonna say you have generational wealth and it doesn't even go past the 1st generation, let alone get to the second, and then let alone get to the third, and then let alone get to any further? How do we get past this quagmire here there? Oh, sounds like you gotta put in the big boy work. Nah, Trust Christian, I'm not about to do that. No problem. But we can tell you right now, you don't even want to know. Trustees come through all the time. "I inherited 4 properties in the state that I'm not even in." Exactly. And they don't want them. They want to get rid of them. They don't know how to make them profitable sometimes. So how do we get around? "Oh, Trust Christian, that's what they coming to you for." There are people that come to us that have assets and know what to do with them. They're actually looking for true asset protection, not, oh, I inherited 4 properties and I don't know what to do. Do you hear the difference? There's a difference between somebody saying, I inherited 4 properties and I don't know what to do, as opposed to somebody saying, hey, I got one and all I'm looking to do is just do a quick claim deed into the family estate. Because they already inherited, they already have it in their name and they're ready to get rid of it. Trust Christian know not to control everything. So the number one asset is the time you put into the trust. And it's just hard to realize because people think, oh, if you have a job mentality, you're going to calculate the time, which is not a bad thing. You're supposed to calculate the time. So how is that bad? Well, they'll err to the side of doing less hours than more hours. Okay, great. So what does that mean? They traditionally won't put in 2 generations worth of work. That's just the reality. Why? Because they've been in, they're right now expressing that they're going to do 1 generation's worth of work. If you work a job and you quit, there is no extra pay that comes from that job over an extended period of time to your family estate. Some people may pull it off through lawsuits and things like that, but we're talking about traditional jobs. They don't pay past the worker working. That's just how it is, and that's fair. So when you get into generational wealth, you're supposed to have some type of asset that's going to perform when you're not alive. If people try to talk about the generational wealth definitions and things of that nature, oh, generational wealth, I'm going to pass along an asset to my family. I'm going to pass along the asset, my house that has equity in it, sure, but it doesn't make money as far as cash flow. It's an equity asset, not a cash flowing asset. So we have these conversations and they say, oh wow, okay, so my time is the number one thing. Yeah, and putting in the time is, could be studying, it could be networking, it could be, doing things internally, administratively. There are various different things that we're doing as trustees, and where are you allocating your time is the biggest thing. And so the reason why trustees that are in jobs sometimes, okay, think about it. If the job's paying you a certain amount of money, that's what people think they're worth an hour. So when you get paid on an hourly basis, that's what people think they're worth, because they're getting paid that. But then when you jump into the aspect of, okay, I'm going to grow an asset now, this is where we have conversations and the pantyhose get tight. Why? Because what are you doing in trusteeship that's always making money? Sometimes in trusteeship, you're just doing work. And some people may not want to hear that because it's like, oh, if I go to work at a job, I'm going to get a payoff at least in 2 weeks, no longer than 30 days. Whereas in trusteeship, a lot of it's more asset management. You could say, oh yeah, you go get a fee, it's gonna pay for the lifestyle, pay for the family houses and all of that good stuff so you can maintain it and be there. But okay, what's really yours? Your time. How you allocate your time. Oh, Trust Christian, do you guard your time? How do you guard your time? Trust Christian, I work a job, I'm making it, which I want to talk about it. I'm making $100 an hour, I'm making $200 an hour, okay, $300 an hour. That's good money for sure, especially if you're doing it on a regular basis. Definitely great. Okay, what happens when you guys are in the environments where trustees will tell you, oh yeah, it took me 2 years to get this asset off the ground? Some people may think that's stupid. Oh man, that's a dumb trustee. He not smart. He don't know how to do it, or she don't know how to do what they supposed to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about building family estates for years and generations. So yes, there are some ventures that you go into where you're gonna put in a year of straight digging and grinding. Here we go. Here we go. Trust Christian, we used to ask ourselves, hey, how you know you love something? And then when you really get into it and you spend days in the office as a trustee and you're looking over family estate things and you start thinking about generations to come, you know that your time that you're putting in is actually going to be valued at one point in the future. It's not that it's not going to be valued. Some people, they could say, yeah, my time right now is not going to be valued. But guess what? The time that you're putting in as a trustee right now will be valued in the future, directly or indirectly. And some people could say, well, okay, that's great. But there will be many that their time will not be valued. There's no value to it. Or the value to it is different than if someone putting in the time to the family estate, putting in work for the assets, going out, doing the hard work, taking time away from what you would call personal things and putting it into the family estate, taking trips, taking things specifically involving the family estate as the moniker and a modus operandi while we're engaging in this particular activity. So we're not going to talk about it being whatever type of road it is. What we are going to say is that trustees, we're talking about time now. And since that's an asset that you can't get back, you can quantify it and you can't get it back, it's going to be valued in the future. And when you look out in your life right now as a trustee and you say, okay, if I got 20 more working years in front of me or 30 more working years in front of me, if you're really going to say you're going to work or whatever you're going to do, how many more years are you going to put in front of you? And now you know, okay, whatever that time frame is, you actually could cut it in half and do 2 times the amount of work for another generation and this generation. And this is what the best trustees are thinking like. Why? Because we understand that if you don't do the work for the next generation, they're not going to know what to do. So we got to do for them so they can have a cushion to study, to learn, to get the education that they need to come through so they can be proper trustees and have an ease in their mind when they're doing trusteeship. See, some people haven't met professional trustees. That's what's funny. We dang near got to call them professional because that's what it is. I mean, you're in environments with Olympic athletes. You're not in an environment where it's all, yeah, Charles Christian, I'm around regular people. He was the high school hero. Now we're talking about people that competed on the world level. They put in the time to their craft. So it's the same thing with trusteeship. They just transferred those skills into trusteeship. That's all they did. We see them in the environment all the time. A lot of people leave other industries and become a trustee. What? They're a trustee of their family estate. Usually after you make about $25 million, you're a trustee of your family estate. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people might want to know, hey, Trust Christian, can I be a trustee of 10 million? Sure. 15 million? Sure. But it's like, we get down to trustees and they're saying, oh, I don't have $10 million. Exactly. So what, you gonna get scared out of the game? You're not gonna be a trustee? You're not going to run it as a full trusteeship. You're not going to go network with the high-end lawyers. You're not going to go network with the high-end accountants. You're not going to continuously reach out to the high-end accountants. See, and that's what we learn from being in the wealthy environments, is you got to have a bench. Oh, no, Trust Christian, I can't afford it. Oh, no, Trust Christian, I don't know no high-end lawyers. I don't know no high-end accountants. Okay, when we say high-end, we're talking about top 20 firms. You just Google them for your industry you're in. Top 20 accounting firms for this industry. Top 20 legal firms for this industry. You're just doing top 20 firms. Some people say, oh, can you do the top 50? Sure, do top 50. But our mentors say, if you do the top 50, then you're going to start at the bottom of the 50 and you're going to definitely go through them. And if you hit one of them, you're going to still put one of them on ice and go to the top and just keep going and do your best to see if now you build some confidence up. You see if you go to a higher firm that'll accept you and work with you as well. What's the time, Trust Christian? Oh man, you gotta put in the time. You gotta put in the time meeting the due diligence partners. You gotta meet your due diligence partners. we say, what's a due diligence partner, Trust Christian? It's this. It's like the insurance company, aren't they a due diligence partner? Don't they do diligence on you when they say, okay, we're gonna get this person's background, and then we go issue a bond, and next thing you know, they got a policy on a quote unquote name. But what happens inside of that name? There's vitals, there's statistics, okay, there's numbers, there's okay. Inside of this situation, we know that there's time that this person is going to put in, and over a period of time, over a period of time, we're going to actually say that this thing, this entity, is supposed to become more valuable. Oh, really, Trust Christian? Correct. Just by putting a policy on it. Correct. But okay, now let's get into, we got the policy on us. What are we going to do with the time? So we can make it more valuable. Because if you actually increase your time value, you could put more in the policies. We're not giving legal advice, financial advice, not talking about it and promoting it in a way in which you got to do it. We talk about wealth mentality here, so it's just wealth mentality. Oh, Trust Christian, you could. I just wanted to ride in my car and listen to this. This is what the episodes are for, so people can listen in their car and say, okay, you know what, my time. Here we go. We'll give you an example. If you're in the car and you're listening to Trust Christian in the vault, first of all, that's the way the mentors trained us. They trained us on books, tapes, and CDs. We had to learn information. They say you spend about 50,000 hours in your car almost every year. So they said you gotta do what? You gotta learn, turn the car into a rolling university. Oh no, Trust Christian, don't tell me that. I don't wanna learn. I don't wanna learn. We know you don't, and that's the difference. That little 50,000 hour is almost the 10,000 hours that you were supposed to put into the business. But oh no, Trust Christian, 10,000 hours, that's 3 years worth of time. Yeah, but 50,000 hours in the car is what? A lot of time. So you gotta turn the car into a rolling university. Oh no, Trust Christian, man, I ain't doing that. You don't know what you're talking about. Cause you what? Cause we not an elite? Would you think we sit in the car and we not studying? We not sitting in the back of the car looking at markets, reading about markets, listening about markets, making sure that we doubling down on development, what you call personal development. Everybody want to talk about personal development, right? Right, it's personal development. We're using the car for personal development. Oh, Trust Christian, how did you know that that's what the elite were doing? That's what we're doing. We're utilizing the car as a rolling university to study, to listen, to have time to think, to pontificate, to let thoughts digest, not just irritate your mind or occupy your mind. This is the time that we're talking about. What's occupying your time? Oh, Trust Christian, man. You know, man. Man, when I get in the car, I go into a trance. When I get into the car, I just want to space out. When I get into the car, all this other stuff. Okay, great. We're letting you all know, ladies and gentlemen, what you're going up against. When you say, oh man, I need to get into the generational wealth principles. Ladies and gentlemen, have you been in the car with someone that has generational wealth? We've said it. Yes, we have. And we're giving you the heads up. The heads up is what? The heads up is that yes, you're gonna run into individuals that are not listening to information, music. They're listening to information, and so sure, everybody likes to talk about the internet information age. Oh, it's the internet information age. They might be thinking, oh, I listen to podcasts, Trust Christian. Hey, we're talking about personal development. If people want to say that they're personal development, that's what you're saying. You say, oh, Trust Christian, tell us what you're listening to. Since you want to say it like that, what are you listening to? Now, remember, this is a public airway. This is just like the internet. You got to parse out the information. So, when you're listening to information over the internet, we would actually like to tell you we listen to audiobooks. Some people would like to think, oh, Trust Christian, I'm going to try to listen to all this information. Nah, most of the time we're just listening to audiobooks. That's it. You're listening to, someone that's successful like a Branson, like a Ben Horowitz, you're listening to different success stories. You're programming your mind for success. So when you get around these individuals, you actually don't act weird or goofy. You actually are normal. Because if you read Richard Branson's book and then you happen to meet him, it wouldn't be an accident. It'd be more of a supposed synchronicity if you read the book. But oh, I didn't know. I didn't read Richard Branson's book. Great, then you probably won't meet him. But if you read Richard Branson's book, there's a possibility you may be engaged or run into him. And when you run into him, it's, oh, we're on the same brainwave, we're on the same frequency. I was thinking about some ideas you were doing when I was listening to the book, and it's the same thing for any other successful individual that's written a book. You can, if you run into him, then you have a conversation piece. That is the secret. Oh, trust Christian for real? Yep. What were we thinking about the other day was there's a lot of the elite are still operating through paid magazines. So if you can listen to a magazine through audio or something online, that's basically what you gotta do. Any paid magazine like a Business Insider, uh, New York Times, Reuters, or we could say, of course, you could tap into what are we talking about? No, where you invest your time. So if you're investing your time, you're gonna listen to magazines. You can listen to magazines, or the magazines will share with you where the elite are hanging out at. So you're listening to elite publications that may be print, but you can listen to them online. Sometimes they may have a reader of the actual page. Then you can listen to a successful person in a magazine read whatever they're doing. So you got the magazines, you got the books, and then once again you got mentors that have done speeches. You can listen to those speeches that the mentors have done. We have mentors that have speeches, and we've had recordings of mentors, and we go back and listen to those things. And it's so important. Some people say, oh, trust Christian, how often do you go back and listen to those things? We would like to tell you every year. At one point, you just end up building up a database of this every year. But if you guys knew where we could take this conversation with AI, it would literally cut down what you think is brain power. For everybody thinks they need to remember all this information, we literally have saw the use of using multiple agents, which would be bots, which would be considered brains that give you an answer and do some work, which are AI tools. So when people want to sit here and say, "Oh, trust Christian to work," it's so much work, it's so much to remember, it's so much to study. Okay, they got AI tools out here nowadays that'll cut people's time frame down. And what's interesting is one of those things where we might even say, well, okay, does that mean that people are not going to read as much? And once again, we go back to it that the mentors definitely. I mean, we read now. If you say, "Oh, trust Christian," do you sit in front of a physical book and you got to read this physical book? We'll tell you, no. A lot of us are doing audio books. So when we're traveling and we're moving around, audio books are the things that are going into our conscious and subconscious mind. That's just bottom line. It's the reality of life, ladies and gentlemen. And so it's just the reality of life. Like a leader are looking to walk around and be a library. And so, oh, how do I remember all this information? Well, the way that you do it is you overload your subconscious mind. So some people say, "Oh, trust Christian, I'm getting all this information, and it's information overload." Yeah, I'm overwhelmed. You ain't overwhelmed. You're learning new information. That's what they never told you in school. Because once you get comfortable, then you feel like you made it. That's the what people consider the dopamine hit, the reward system. You study for the test. You might put yourself through a stressful night or two or day or however long, and or whatever you're doing, and then you pass the test. That's what it's the reward system. Okay, great. It's the same thing with books. Oh man, I'm reading a book. I got a reward from it. But it's not that for us. It's actually a continuous situation. You just got to stay in the situation. Some people don't want to hear that. Oh man, trust Christian, because people think they could break back to their devious ways, to their previous ways. Oh, trust Christian, I want to break back to my previous ways. Okay, you can break back to your previous ways all you want, but we just want to let you all know that once again, if the new way is the better way, why would you go back to the old way? But we understand it's programming. So the way that you double down on your programming is once you get into the thick of it, and it's, oh man, trust Christian, it seems like it's a lot. There's so much. I'm doing new things all the time. Right. understand what trusteeship is. You understand what trusteeship is. You're starting to understand what trusteeship is. You're starting to understand what generational wealth feels like. Like, oh, trust Christian, I got the weight of doing all the work. Yeah, and your beneficiaries are gonna have all the weight of not screwing it up. So who do you think would be more insecure? You or them? Oh man, I don't want to mess up the family estate. I don't want to do worse than the family did, so I gotta make sure I'm good. Or if they come into it with a different mentality of, okay, I'm just here to make better. Once again, there's different mentalities, and that's why it's so important to make sure that you cultivate the right mentality of any successors that are going to come in and be a trustee. Why? Because now we know that they're going to be able to handle the vigor of the work that's involved. They're not gonna run. They're not gonna run and be, oh man, Trust Christian said I gotta do 2 generations worth of work. They're just gonna look at it as, okay, the previous generation clearly has set a precedent that they can do at least 1 or 2 generations worth of work in their lifetime. Now, some trustees, we would like to think it's only gonna be 1%. Unfortunately, probably will be. And fortunately for the ones that do, it will be for you. There will be trustees that will not have to take a lifetime to make generational wealth. They're going to do it, and they're going to do it multiple generations in one lifetime. So when you see the amount of capital, the amount of assets that they're able to acquire, they're going to have multi-generational wealth, and that's what you're going to see. You're going to see someone that within a 5 to 10 year period, they were able to amass more than $25 million minimum. That's low. If we say 10 years and they did, that means they made $2 million every year in 10 years. So, which if you consider that generational wealth, we're here to, agree with those things, but okay, it takes you 10 years. Then there's going to be ones that do it in 10 years. And then in the next 10 years after that, they're going to go either to 50 or they're going to go to 75. And it's going to look like that. Oh, Trust Christian, for real? They could do that in 20 years, put together $75 million? For sure. You're going to see some trustees in that period of time, they're going to do 3 times that. They're going to put up 150 in 20 years. That's multi-generational wealth. People talk about generational wealth. We're talking about generational wealth. You have $125 million is generational wealth. We can have these conversations in the public because people want to talk about it. Oh, I need financial literacy, Trust Christian. I'm looking to get $100 million. I'm looking to get all this money. Okay, how long is it going to take? Because it's about time, right? And how much time you're putting in to actually make that happen. Oh, Trust Christian, I don't have an idea that's going to do that. Okay, there's something that's going to say that. We're going to go back to the ones that might pull it off. The ones that say, okay, in 10 years, I got to make $2 million every year. At one point, I got to start making $2 million every year. Whatever way it is. Some people won't be able to ever touch that. But for the ones of you all that consider that a decent amount, oh, Trust Christian, all I could do, I could pull it off. Man, I could probably pull it off. I could probably pull off $1 million a year. 2 million is a stretch. I get 2 million. I get 2 million. In 10 years, that's $20-something million. Yeah, Trust Christian, but I think a lot of people are probably not going to ever think about working ever again if they ever get there. But most people don't understand. Usually, people that acquire this type of capital, we usually don't stop doing stuff because once again, we're around mentors that have trained us. We don't have one mentor that's actually completely retired, and we would like to tell you all that our mentors have been retired, but people don't understand what retired is. Everybody's got this different definition, and what happens is, this is our mentors. They've always been very clear. Well, trust Christian, I haven't had to work a day of my life since I was. What do you want us to tell you? Our mentors aren't even all of them aren't even over 65, 70. A lot of our mentors are still in their 50s and 60s, and so yeah, they're still doing stuff, and 100%. They've been retired for 30 years, 30 years, 25 years. Oh, he's 50. He's been retired since he's been 25. We're not gonna say all of the mentors have been retired since 25, but we have mentors for sure that have been retired since 25 and 30 for sure. 30 for sure. Some people say, "Oh, trust Christian, you hang around those type of people." Definitely, we're around people that are ex-bankers. They're ex-bankers. They work for banks. They were they were doing the markets when they were great in the 80s. They could tell you about the 70s. They could tell you about the 80s. They could tell you about the 90s. They could tell you about those things. And they can tell you that, yep, trust Christian. There's nothing new under the sun type stuff. That's what they might try to tell you, but things change. But for the most part, the mentors have always trained us to focus on the fundamentals. And one of the fundamentals is your time and your calendar. And the mentors have always had a calendar. They've always had a value of their time. We've sat in front of the mentors for sure, and they made us sign contracts about sitting in front of them about their time. You may not pay them for their time, but you definitely gonna account for it. Oh, trust Christian for real? Yeah, 100%. The mentors got a state that they're making sure that they're keeping track of what they're doing it for. They're keeping track of the time. It's just the bottom line. You only have so much time. So once you start counting backwards from how long you think you might live, if you think you're going to live to 90 something years old, if you think you're going to live to 80 years old, everybody would like to say, oh, I hope. Yeah, sure you would hope. But let's just say you were to actually project out now. We project out a time frame and we work backwards. And that's what we're doing in trusteeship. So when you think about it, how selfish is it just for us to work backwards in our timeline? I mean, in our lifetime. Wouldn't we want to work backwards for multi-generations? Yep. All right, so and a lot of people don't want to hear that. But why do you think they have these world organizations? Oh, we need to look out for planet Earth past 50 years and 100 years. We need to look out for planet Earth. It's organizations looking out for planet Earth, and it's organizations looking out for their own family estate too, for 50 to 100 years. Time. No doubt about it. And some people may say, oh, trust Christian, this is heavyweight stuff, man, I'm not on it. Okay. But for the ones of you all that, okay, trust Christian, I was thinking about my time frame, my life. You're right. You thought about your time and your life. But trust Christian's telling you all and sharing with you all, if you put in enough time, you can actually put in 2 or 3 generations worth of work in your lifetime. By you being able to do that, that puts you in a position where the next successive generations don't have to put in as much work. Some people say, oh, I'm trying to make my children and grandchildren's life easier or better. Well, that's what it'll look like. But how are we going to get there if we're not putting in that time first? The number one asset. The asset is the time. The time goes towards study. The time goes towards investment. The time goes towards many different things. But we sharing with trustees, oh, trust Christian, how long you gonna keep talking about this? We gonna go ahead and go ahead and wrap it then. Fine. So here we go, trustees. You're gonna get to a point where you feel like your time is so valuable that you don't want to associate with certain people because your time is not valued by them. You may feel that, you may think that your time is best allocated towards something else, and you have to be completely comfortable with moving on and taking your time and investing it into things that you know is going to be multi-generational. We're not telling you it's the narrow road and it's the long road and it's the lonely road. Or it's not the road. It's just, ladies and gentlemen, We've been doing our best for years now to talk about what trusteeship really looks like. It's like Trust Christian. We actually talking from behind a wall. Why? You have to. When you do confessions at church, don't you talk behind the wall? Yeah, because what you're talking about is supposed to be a secret. Oh, trusteeship. Yeah, I don't know if I'm a trustee. You a part of the Social Security Administration trust system? How about that? And what position are you in? The beneficiary or the trustee? Oh, Trust Christian, you're waking up the blind people and all this other stuff. No, we're having a public conversation because it's in the public. The elite are gonna talk about things in the public. It's okay. What's the number one asset though? It's gonna be the time of the trustee that they put in and others that they get to put in. So trustees, when you start feeling and thinking, man, Trust Christian, I gotta increase the value of my time because I was working a job or I was doing this. I gotta increase the value of my time. That's where you start learning that you're putting in multi-generational work time now. So now when you put in the time, you're not putting in the time to get money back for the multi-generations. You're just putting in the time for them. You're putting in the time for multi-generations. And you're thinking about this as you're doing it. Because that's what it is. It's not, oh man, Trust Christian, hey, are you thinking about multi-generations when you're doing the work? Of course. You're thinking about generations. What are you doing it for? That's what's going to keep you encouraged. That's what's going to keep you motivated. Being honest with y'all. Oh, Trust Christian, you just think you sometimes some people think about themselves, they think about their legacy they want to uphold, but then it comes down to, okay, I'm thinking about multi generations right now, the family that I have. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Feel free to tune in, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace and joy.